Spiritual Gems for the week of April 13th to 19th, 2026. Isaiah 52 to 53. Practical comments. Isaiah 52 verse 11. Explain the application of this prophetic command. The prophetic command at Isaiah 52 verse 11 originally applied to the Jews leaving Babylon, who were entrusted with carrying Jehovah's sacred utensils back to Jerusalem. Because these items were holy, they were required to remain clean, not only in a physical or ceremonial sense but also spiritually and morally. In its modern application, this command teaches Christians that they must separate themselves from anything spiritually unclean. As the Apostle Paul explained, this involves cleansing oneself of every defilement of flesh and spirit. True worshippers of Jehovah today therefore strive to maintain moral purity, avoid corrupt influences, and remain spiritually clean so as to be fit for sacred service. What spiritual gems from this week's Bible reading would you like to share? Isaiah 52 verses 4 to 6 says, "For this is what the sovereign Lord Jehovah says, At first my people went down to Egypt to live there as foreigners, then Assyria oppressed them without cause." This verse shows that Jehovah clearly remembered how Israel suffered in Egypt and later under Assyria. Just as he took note of Israel's affliction, he also sees the challenges his servants face today. It reassures us that no hardship goes unnoticed, and in his due time, Jehovah will act to deliver his people. This strengthens our confidence in his justice and care. Isaiah 52 verse 7 says, "How beautiful on the mountains are the feet of the one bringing good news, the one proclaiming peace, the one bringing good news of something better, the one proclaiming salvation, the one saying to Zion, Your God has become king." The expression, "Your God has become king," at Isaiah 52 verse 7 strengthens my faith in Jehovah's sovereignty. It reminds me that God's kingdom is already established and will soon bring an end to suffering. This gives me confidence when I speak to others, knowing that the good news we share is certain and will be fulfilled. Or, Isaiah 52 verse 7 helps me appreciate how Jehovah views the preaching work. It says the feet of the one bringing good news are beautiful, which shows that Jehovah deeply values our efforts in the ministry. So even if we feel our contribution is small, Jehovah does not see it that way. He notices our faithfulness, our motives, and our willingness to speak about his kingdom. Therefore, we can feel joyful and satisfied, knowing that every sincere effort in the preaching work is valuable to him. Isaiah 52 verse 11 says, turn away, get out of there, touch nothing unclean. Get out from the midst of her, keep yourselves clean, you who are carrying the utensils of Jehovah." At Isaiah 52 verse 11, Jehovah expects his servants to remain spiritually and morally clean. Therefore, we avoid practices, entertainment, or associations that could damage our relationship with Jehovah. Or, Isaiah 52 verse 11 reminds us that holiness is required of those serving Jehovah. The command to touch nothing unclean shows that even indirect association with false worship can be spiritually dangerous. Jehovah's people today strive to keep clean by avoiding false religious practices and worldly influences. Carrying Jehovah's utensils represents our sacred service, so we must remain morally and spiritually clean to honor Jehovah and reflect his holiness. Isaiah 53 verses 4 to 5 says, "Truly he himself carried our sicknesses, and he bore our pains. But we considered him as plagued, stricken by God and afflicted. But he was pierced for our transgression, he was crushed for our errors. He bore the punishment for our peace, and because of his wounds we were healed." This verse clearly points to the ransom sacrifice of Jesus. His suffering was not meaningless, it had a purpose, to remove the barrier of sin between humans and Jehovah, allowing us to regain a clean standing before God and the hope of everlasting life. Reflecting on this can deepen our appreciation for the ransom and motivate us to live in a way that honors Jehovah and his Son. Or, Isaiah 53 verses 4 to 5 reminds us that Jesus carried our sicknesses by giving his life as a ransom, taking on the full weight of sin and its consequences. This helps us appreciate that both Jehovah and Jesus truly understand our struggles. When we face pain or hardship, we can be confident that Jesus is not indifferent, he has personally experienced suffering and can sympathize with us. Isaiah 53 verse 7 says, "He was oppressed and he let himself be afflicted, but he would not open his mouth. He was brought like a sheep to the slaughter, like a ewe that is silent before its shearers, and he would not open his mouth." Comparing Jesus to a sheep led to slaughter highlights his innocence and mildness. Jesus was sinless, yet he accepted suffering for the sake of mankind. This reflects the quality of meekness that Jehovah values. It encourages us to cultivate a mild, peaceable spirit, even when we are misunderstood or treated unfairly. Or, Isaiah 53 verse 7 beautifully highlights Jesus' humility and complete trust in Jehovah. Even when he was treated unjustly, he did not defend himself or retaliate. This teaches us the value of mildness and self-control, especially when we face opposition or misunderstanding. Like Jesus, we can rely on Jehovah to bring about justice in his due time instead of insisting on our own vindication. Isaiah 53 verse 10 says, "But it was Jehovah's will to crush him, and he let him become sick. If you will present his life as a guilt offering, he will see his offspring, he will prolong his days, and through him the delight of Jehovah will have success." Though it pained Jehovah to see his son suffer, he took delight in Jesus' faithfulness because it proved Satan a liar and provided the means for humans to live forever. This verse reminds us that our endurance also makes Jehovah's heart rejoice. It encourages us to remain loyal, knowing that Jehovah sees our efforts and will reward our faithfulness. If you enjoyed this spiritual gems, please share and comment what you learn. And don't forget to subscribe.